It's like a barista, except for you can't see the design I'm making. There, I just made a heart. See it? Look, I'm spelling my name. Pretty cool, right? Hey, welcome to the channel, Paintucation by Kevin Tetz. We are hard at work on the VGG OBS. What does that even mean? It's Ed sled with a pickup bed. This truck here belongs to Derek Berry, if you haven't caught up with the episodes, and we're putting a nice paint job on it. And together, he and I are going to reveal this thing at C10's in the city in Atlanta on May 3rd. And that's right around the corner, so I've got some hard work to do. We're in the prep process. The cab is just about ready to spray. I've already done a session of parts in the booth, little pieces, mirrors, grill, stuff like that, and these things are next. My process for this was to bodywork, high build poly, block, and do urethane. So this is a high build poly, and I've got it all blocked out nicely to where I've accentuated some of these lines, crisped up the lines, and just made it nice and flat, right? And then I found a problem. As we do, if we're really diligent, if we're telling ourselves the truth, when we see things that come up, we want to fix. So that's what today's episode is about. This right here, it was the low spot right there. And when I looked at it wet, I could see it bowing. And I didn't like it. This truck is going black, which is the ultimate mirror when it comes to paint finishes. And I think I've got this corrected. And when I was prepping the cab, there's another spot. Come and take a look at this. These trucks are notorious for not fitting very well at these style lines. So I've sort of adjusted all the panels to where the gaps look decent, but this was goofy. So what I'm doing is I'm in the process of making this style line match that style line. Not perfect, because this is a show driver where you're not afraid to park it on a car show and then drive the silly thing home. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing to correct this, and then we'll get this into primer, which is a really cool product, and I can't wait to show you that. But we're not there yet. I've got some blocking to do on this, and we're gonna get started with that right now. I've got a PPE up just a little bit, and then, yeah. No rest for the trucker, something. What? That's weird. This right here, I've got filler on there. It's a skim coat of filler, and apparently I've got something black like guide coat all over my fingertips. But I want these style lines to look better and match up, so I'm going to use my trusty graphite powdered guide coat. This one happens to be from a company called Kovacs. I really like this company. They're high-end refinishing and surfacing tools. The guide coat in itself, despite the brand, it doesn't matter. The graphite powder helps us see the surface, so that's what we're doing here. Since I'm drying, I'm making dust, I'm gonna put a mask on. Felt a little like a bee sting. I kind of want to cry a little bit right now into my mask. All right. So I'm gonna use this is 180 grit sandpaper. You see how it shows up? That's how it talks to us. I went a little crazy there. You can see that straight line forming, right? And I want this to be nice and flat, and it's gonna be, but it's not perfect. We're not doing perfect panel gaps on this rig. We're gonna do super nice panel gaps on this rig. But this line shows me where the rest of it needs to be. So now what I can do, very carefully block this up to where that style line is. And the theory of a guide coat is that once it goes away, your surface is flat. We're using a flat blocked 180. Watch right there. Guide coat gone. Stop sanding. All right, now come down here. That feels flat to my fingertips. A little bit peaky, so I'm going to kind of roll this edge over because there's a radius on these panel gaps on the transitions because it's stamped steel. I also don't like body filler on these radiused areas because it's brittle, right? And if something ever comes into contact with it, it can take paint, primer, and filler with it. And I've seen it happen. It's not pretty. All right, now I'm going to verify. Closing my door. Pretty close. I'm going to do another stage of primer on this, so I'm going to have another opportunity to straighten this out and clean it out. Not clean it out, just straighten it out. So, in my mind, in my lexicon of body shop terminology, I refer to this as roughing out. So I'm closing in on the contour and the shape of my fillers. And again, I don't want to depend on plastic filler to gap my panels, but I do want it as a tool to perfect them. Now that I'm done with that style line, I go to the next one up. And again, we can see now we have a line to work against. That's pretty sexy right there. But it's still low right there. I don't like that. So, coming up. We've got our smaller block right here. That's doing what I need it to do. All right. That might be a little low, but I'm using a super high build poly on that. That's going to be fine. Now, I can go up to this guy. All right, so now I have my reference point right along there. And I just got to work that down and carry my line in there. And I don't want to affect that, so get it out of the way. And this is a skim coat of body filler, people. I'm not building gaps out of Bondo, not doing it. I'm gonna hit that a little bit there. I know I've got excess. I did wipe that. I've got a bit of filler right there. All right. Close my door and verify one more time. So you see how that's coming together. This line is coming real close to lining up with that line. This is it's flush with that surface. Now I got to work this, but I don't want to affect that. So we're going to use another tool. Might be more common than you think. What's that tool, Kevin? 3/4 inch masking tape. What's it going to do? going to protect the work that I've already done. So now I can come in here like a moron and I'm protected down here and I don't have to really be careful with it. So I could just come in here and just kind of sand. Let the sandpaper do what it's intended to do. See, my block is touching that paper, but I'm not changing the shape of it. All right, so I'm getting really smooth right in there. That's metal, and that's not. I'm just gonna tweak that just a little bit, kind of bridge over. Some kind of cross-blocking panels, but not really. I'm gonna stop right there. I'm going to use the tape for my fence again. And that's going to give me enough of a bridge to work against, right? One thing I got to be really careful of is this right here, because it's glass. Because I don't want to buy Derek a new side glass. I don't think he wants me to either. All right, we got to be careful because there's metal poking through there. Okay, I've got to attack it from the other side. Use the fingometer, feel the flatness, and it's fine right there. That feels pretty good. Nice and flat. Micro thin coating of body filler. So, I want to keep my tape there. I got to open the door. Gee, what'll I do? Let's do this. Now my reference mark is the same, and I can work against it. There's the magic of our powdered guide coat. We know that there's a bump there. That's going to show through like a giant, enormous sign. You'll be able to see that from the space shuttle if I don't block that down. What is that? That's an oopsie. There's a bit of filler up there. Body working what don't need a body work. This edge right here. Now I am going to have to come in here. You can see on that jam right there. Yeah, I've overshot that with my filler, but I'm going to keep my repair inside this part here. I'll come back in and spot that in. That's the driver's door. That's got to look nice. So I'm going to work that flat and I'll prime that or something, but anyway, we'll get there. I've got a lot of paint in the can, a lot of paint in the bucket. Down here is good, this part is good, this part is not good. I need to know what's happening right there. I've got too much filler there, not enough there. So I've just got to apply a little bit more filler there, just kind of build that out a little bit and straighten it out right through there. It's not the worst thing that can happen. All right, the rest of that will wait for me. I'm gonna mix up a little bit of filler, put it in there, but first I'm gonna tape those areas off so I can respect the work that I've already done. All right, we're getting close, man, we're getting close. All right, so now we got our filler built back up there to where I can shape it again. Now I know you're thinking, oh, you're building the truck out of body filler. No, no. You can throw rocks at the screen if you want to. What I'm doing is improving the visual look of the style lines. I'm not building panels out of filler, but I will use filler as a tool, and it's a good tool. So, we've got 180 on the block. I'm protected down below. That sounded weird. Whoa! And I'm not even after perfection here. I'm just after the shadows aligning themselves and lining up as you take a glance at this. And if you're wondering why I'm paying so much attention to this one corner, there's two parts on a vehicle that are the most observed parts on the vehicle. The first part is the lower center of the hood. The second part is this zone right around here around the driver's door handle. Those two, you could have a crap job on the rest of the vehicle, and these ones polish out nice, and people would think you got a good polish job at first glance. And I might be being a little bit facetious, but it matters. Those two areas matter a lot. So I'm focusing on this one. All right, so this is coming around. It's starting to look a little better. And this style line is not straight, it scoops up, which is weird. You OBS guys will recognize that. That's coming around. All right, so I got to work this just a little bit more. That's coming back around. I sounded a little bit like Katharine Hepburn there. That is coming back around. That didn't sound like Katharine Hepburn at all. Do you even know who Katharine Hepburn is? Come on. On Golden Prawns, you know. I'm going to prime that. When I'm looking from a glass, I'm looking over there, there's the hot dog stand. Oh yeah, that lines up pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to roll with that. We're going to roll with that. So I'm going to clean that up with a scuffing pad, get the rest of that residual dust and guide coat off there. We'll do some masking. We're going to prime that, and that was something you want to know about. right, so I see a pinhole here. If there's one, there's others. I'm going to use this 440 Express to fill those guys in. This is a legal way to fill in pinholes right before primer. That way they don't become craters on your wet coatings. I've really become a believer in this stuff. You work it into the pores, and then when it sets, you knock over the top with a bit of sandpaper. Yeah, and it showed up a little bit. See if you can get a close in there, camera guy. See that little dark spot? That's a pinhole there. And that would have sucked in some primer. So, like I said, I've become a big believer in this stuff. We don't have to fix them after the fact. We can fix them before we prime. And I'm pretty sure with all this layer and Swiss cheese in here, we've got some pinholes. So, that's just my 42 cents on everything. Nothing wrong with tools. You just gotta know about them. I don't know. There. That's all that needs. I'll come back. I just make sure that 440 Express is off the top. All right, prime time. So the primer surfacers that I'm using is by a company called Spray Max. It's a super high build, 2K, which means it's got a harder, which means it cross-links, and it stays firm. It doesn't shrink after it's applied, after the cure time. It's a really versatile system, and it's self-contained in here. This is kind of a relatively new thing on the market. These have been around for a while, but I'm a super fan of this technology. You can hear it's a rattle can. One of the benefits is an adjustable spray nozzle. You can see this right here. The adjustment is on the top. You can go from a wide to a narrow, and look at a close-up of the nozzle itself. It's manufactured to look, if you can see that, I think you can now, to look like a professional spray gun. And they just work really well. It produces a nice pattern. It's not ready to shake. Look at the valve under the bottom. It's got a little puncture device. There is a bladder on the inside, I like to say that word, of catalyst. The way to puncture and release the catalyst into the can is to take the button from the top, invert the can, put that in there, and you can feel it when it releases. I always like to make sure that it's good and punctured. Now we shake it for another 2 minutes, because I shook it for 2 minutes to get the primer activated. We shake it for another 2, and then we can put it on. Now it's a non-isocyanate product, and what that means is that it's a little bit safer to use. I'm still going to have good PPE, a good mask on, and it doesn't produce much overspray, and there's no gun cleanup. So it's perfect for these 2 spots. I'm almost ready for finish sanding on that. This is paintable, whereas my high build poly right here, you need a sealer over top of that to paint it. This stuff is sandable and paintable, so it ticks a couple of boxes. So it's what I'm going to use to finish out these 2 repairs, and then we'll see how fast drying it is. Then we can go on to prep. We got some stuff to do on that bed and some creative maneuvering that we're going to do. And some things that we're going to do. There's still welding to do on it. Anyway, so we're ready to get this done. I'm going to put 3 medium wet coats of this product on each of those repairs. We'll test our pattern like that. Look at that. That's a pretty thick pattern, so I'm gonna just play with it here. It's like I did on the Harley Tins video. When I turned it in, the pattern goes much narrower. For these areas, I'm probably going to, I don't know, I'll put it in the middle. I don't know why. All right, let's try it. A little burn through on the top into the filler. I want a barrier on that. We'll see if that runs off on the floor, but it looks pretty good so far. I can judge my style line in the light, and it looks pretty okay. All right, let's do the door. And you can tell by the shadows now, that upper style line, it matches. It's not perfect. It wasn't meant to be perfect. I just wanted it better. So we got some flash time to wait. I'll coat this another couple of coats, and then we will, yeah, let it dry. Prep. Third coat. So that is 3 pretty full wet coats. The TDS sheet says it's sandable within 30 minutes at 70 degrees. We're right around there, might be a little cooler, so I might leave it an hour, but that's a pretty quick turnaround for sanding. If you want to put an IR light on it, or if it's a hotter temperature, you can jump on it quicker than that. It has a 24-hour pot life too, which means that it stays sprayable and usable for 24 hours. So what I like to do with this stuff is that's supposed to be an M, I'll ID when I stopped using it, Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. So that means Thursday at 3:30 p.m., it's kind of the end of the pot life, but I can still use that stuff for 24 hours. That's pretty cool, and it's fully activated. I just cleaned the tip out, so it's a neat product. And 30 to 45 minutes before we sand it, that's about the perfect amount of time for us to take a beverage break, let that stuff set up, and continue on with prep. So I will be right back. I've got something really important to do. Oh wait, hold on. All right, that feels good. All right, blocked out nice. So now what we're gonna do, this is ready for my urethane primer, for the finish sanding primer, and I'm super excited about that. Except, when I measured for wheels, we wanted to get the most fatness out of the back wheels, and I trimmed back the wheel arches from the inside, and you can't see it, but I can feel it. I've cut them loose, and you OBS guys know what I did. But what I have to do is flip this bed up on its end and weld, or lay on my back and weld. And I don't want to lay on my back and weld. So we are going to, yeah, we're going to do a couple things here. I'm going to get rid of this thing temporarily. I think I'm causing myself more work than I really wanted to, but except for now I've jammed that up in there. So yeah, my life sucks right now, but hey, it's okay. I'm going to set down some soft pads. We're just going to use the engine hoist and tilt it up, because what could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? When I'm working by myself, that little pump-up table it's really been a big help. It lifts like 10,000 pounds, I think, is what the directions say, but I've never had to lift that much with it. All right, now I got to figure this out. So, all right. Give me a minute. So before I measured for wheels and tires on this thing, I did some trimming. I wanted this to be a little bit narrower. We're not gonna fold the edges or roll them or do any aggressive body work, but I wanted it thinner. Look how fat that is. About 1.25 inches, and I've just trimmed this down. Well, what that does is it gets rid of the spot welds, and now you got a floating panel. You look at that in there, you can see how that moves. Well, yeah, and makes that popping sound, which I don't know where that came from, kind of concerns me. But I'm just going to put a couple of tack welds here. I've got welding blankets to hopefully protect the Raptor liner from BBs, and I'm just going to tack this up on both sides, and that way I can put that to bed, and if I have to do any dressing of the welds, I'll do that. But this is just a little bit of housekeeping, because we don't want that flopping in the breeze. All right, so that's all that needed. I've just got to do the other side. Now it's solid, it's fixed. That's plenty of tacks to hold it. And I'll do the other side, and then get this crazy thing up in the booth. Do more stuff. I am going to throw a little paint on there. Cover up the bare metal. We will be good to go. All right, got a little bit of masking to do. Not much, pretty much the whole thing needs primed, but I don't want to get primer overspray all over the wheel houses because they're all Raptor lines. So I'm gonna cover those up, and on the back here, I don't want to get whatever. I'm just doing some housekeeping. I'm just doing some covering up, some masking. So yeah, let me work, man. Working on your hands and knees is highly overrated. That sounded really weird. Come on, tape. There you go. Okay. Why don't you just lift it up? Put it on jack stands, Kevin. Oh, come on. Close enough. All right. More masking. So masking is nothing new. We're protecting the places that we don't want overspray to get on by covering them up with paper and taping it down. Super simple. Wheel arches, yes, that's self-explanatory. The bed liner, it's not going to look very good with gray primer on it. But the tops of the bed sides, what I'm doing is I'm going to prime the inside of the bed first, and then I'm going to come around and do the outsides. It's just easier than doing the whole entire thing with one single coat and then chasing it around, because I'm going to have air hoses to drag up into the bed, and I don't want to mar the wet primer with the air hoses. So we're priming it all at the same time, technically, but at separate times at the same time. But separate. But at the same time. Still separate. So I don't have to do any math with this one. All I have to do is find the division, because this primer is a 4:1:1, 4 parts primer, 1 part reducer, 1 part hardener. And I've got my lines on the side. And I've used some out of this on the rest of the truck, so I don't even need to use the magic pour spout, which kind of let me down the other day, but it's all good. I cried in the shower where no one could see the tears. So this, if I play my cards right, Go up to the first 7. Oh, look at that. Nason is a high quality but affordable line of products. So I'm very comfortable using this on this truck to where I want it to look like $1 million. And still be affordable. And there's the catalyst. So now we'll give this a good stir and a blend, and we'll start to spray. So I'm calculating that this, how many ounces? I'm trying to see. Read. Here we go with ounces again. Good gosh, it's 28 ounces. I'm going to assume that this will get the inside of the bedsides done. I wish I could just dip it in primer. Just dip it real good. So I'm using a 1.3 fluid tip to spray this stuff. Why are you doing that, Kevin? Because it's going to break it up into smaller parts and it's going to lay down smoother. It actually works really well. You painters know that it slows your gun travel speed down a little bit, but if you're watching the panel and not the gun, you'll be okay. It's like a barista, except for you can't see the design I'm making there. I just made a heart. See it? Look, I'm spelling my name. Pretty cool, right? All right, so all I have left to do is suit up, get my mask on, and then get my prime on. Yaw. This primer surfacer requires 2 to 3 coats. We're going to put 2 wet coats on, and even with the 1.3 fluid tip, that's a lot of material. I actually have to say that I struggled with where to do this priming. On one hand, the bed was already down in the other shop, and it would have been super easy just to mask it up and prime it there, but you know, the environment's not clean. And I do mechanic work there, and I've got transmission fluid spilled on the floor, and I'd have to cover up all my tools, and all the work that takes. Well, we showed you what that took in the YouTube studio with the garbage Camaro and plastic walls and everything, and it was a lot of work, and it was less work to bring the bed up here into the booth and just do it in the super clean environment that I've got. So that's what we did. With 2 fat coats of primer on the inside of the sides of the bed and the wheelhouses, I primed my way out, peeling the paper back as I traveled out of the bed. Once the inside of the bed was coated, now I can pull my paper off the outside, and I don't have to worry about my air hoses on the roll pan or a bunch of overspray that I have to fight on the bed sides themselves. And then, second verse, same as the first. 2 wet coats with about a 75% overlap, and we just primed the fire out of it. Well, you can't really tell with primer, but it's primed. Oh, man, it looks good. We got plans for the bed floor that don't involve seeing it, so I'm not worried about that. I'm not. All right. Well, that feels good to have that primed, ready to final sand. It kind of makes me tired already thinking about how I'm going to spray the inside of that bed. I'll figure that out. But the bottom line is this. It's getting done. It's getting done one piece at a time, one panel at a time. And when me and Derek first agreed to do C10s in the city, which is going to be a blast, I had lots of time. I had months to get this thing finished. And it's so funny how it doesn't matter, we're not procrastinating, but it just seems like it all ends up at the bottom of the bag. And now we've got a few weeks left, which sounds like a lot of time. All you got to do is spray paint, right? But then we got to polish, and then we got to reassemble. So time's ticking. It's fine. We're going to get there if there's overspray smoking out of the door jambs when we roll it off the trailer. But I'm going to take the win and enjoy the fact that we are narrowing down. We go in spray session done. And it's coming around, and I'm happy with it. Even with priming, you can tell by when the coating lays down, you can tell whether it's smooth, and I'm happy with the way things are turning out. So I hope Derek digs it. I hope you guys enjoy watching, and we're going to sign off right now. I'm going to clean out the rest of my spray gun, and we will see you on YouTube. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. We really appreciate you. And descriptions of all the stuff I'm using are in the links, hopefully. We'll see you next time.